Surviving the Survivor.
Hey, what's up, STS Nation? How are you guys? Apologies. We did try to go live. As you all know too well, Hurricane Ian passed by, and so we were having some major Wi-Fi issues. Apologies about that. But we did speak to 3 ex-cons. We've got Quan Huynh on the show today, as well as AB Butler and also Gunnar Lindbloom. They've all spent substantial time in prison, and they join us today to talk about what life could be like for Charlie Adelson. Before we get to them, just a quick reminder, if you want to get on the Surviving the Survivor email distribution list, just stick your email in the comment section. Also, we're looking for both sponsors and advertisers. A shameless plug, I know, but it costs money to do these shows, and we're trying to keep them going. Carm, unfortunately, could not make it today, but she is here as always. Cutout Carm, hashtag Cutout Carm has joined us. Again, on the show today, we've got Quan, AB Butler, and Gunnar Lindbloom, and we'll pick up the show right where they tell us why they were in prison and for what. Enjoy the show and let us know what you think.
I went in for crack cocaine. A young man set me up with the DEA agent, and I had 30 years. I did 30 years altogether, you know what I mean? 20 in, 10 out, but it's still 30 all day.
And you didn't sit and sulk once you got out. You're making something of yourself now. You're in the music business. What are you doing in the music business?
Well, when I came home, rest in peace to my cousin Chris Lighty from Violated Management. He managed some of the top artists from 50 Cent to LL, Busta Rhymes, Mariah Carey, P. Diddy. Let's go on and on. He's basically, he had his hands in the industry. And, right now I'm dealing with some artists, a guy named Ayo, Dirty Diane, my lone friend JB Smooth, Phyllis Stickney and Kenny Burch keep rising to the top. Yeah, so I'm in here doing my thing, representing my company back in the game entertainment. So that's what I'm doing right now.
And we'll go counterclockwise here. So Gunnar, same deal. What were you in for? How long? And what are you doing right now?
I was in prison for 13 to 50 years for extortion, bank robbery, armed robbery. Jeez, Pete, that's audio. So I grew up around and or in, I won't say in the mafia, but my family was the mafia, and I grew up around it as a kid in Detroit. Came up around a bunch of freaking wise guys, basically my whole life. That's all I ever really knew. My parents got divorced when I was 4, so I went and lived with my grandparents, who were right in the ground zero of this environment. And I had uncles that was their kids, they were involved in that street life, and I just kind of came up, got expelled from school real young, 15 years old, took to the streets, started selling drugs, just bad kid, all around bad kid, in and out of jail, a bunch of felonies. And then when I got out of jail, when I was about 19, 20 years old, there was an old mob boss named Tony Giacalone, very, very powerful dude. He was famous for being the #1 suspect in the Jimmy Hoffa murder. He was an uncle through marriage, but he was my grandpa's friend, and he kind of put me to work. He saw something in me that he liked. I was a young, tough guy is what I was. I liked to fight. I was always brawling and tearing places up. So he put me to work, doing some jobs and muscling people and extorting people and beating up people. And over like 10 years, I got into a bunch of stuff and involved in drugs. And anyways, I ended up going to prison at age 29 and then came out when I was 43. But while I was in prison, I decided to start writing. I took up the art of writing. I have my books around here somewhere. But I ended up writing 9 novels when I was in prison. So that's what I did. That's how I spent my time in prison, writing. And then when I got the crazy part is I met a woman when I was in prison. She reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know who you are. I went to school with you. I work for a publisher. I heard you write books, blah, blah, blah. I'd be willing to read your book, you know, and you want to send it to me. So I sent her one of the manuscripts, and she was like blown away. And she was like, holy crap, you're a freaking unicorn, you know? And she started writing me back and forth. And eventually we actually ended up falling in love through love letters over like a year period. And then she ended up committing and waiting 7 years for me. And when I got out, I married her the next day. I was baptized that same day too. And then we just started our life together, and I published my books, a couple of my books, and they did real well. And people are comparing them to The Godfather, because the 2-book series I have out now, it's called To Be a King, Volume 1 and 2. It's about a fictional Detroit mafia family. It's fictional, but you know, some things loosely inspired about the, you know, by characters and people I know or events that happen. But it's a fictional novel, but it's done really well, and people are saying, you wrote the next Godfather, or this is the Godfather of our generation, blah, 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 blah. So now, I believe it or not, I had a producer just optioned them to be filmed, feature films. So they've both been optioned, and also my life story has been optioned too, with a focus on my love story with my wife. So they want to make a TV series out of my life, but more focused on how I met my wife in prison and how she waited for me and all that. And I have a radio show too. I'm a host of a radio show now, so I got that.
Wow, it's awesome. I'm always amazed. Like, guys in prison get more ass than I do outside, on the outside. But guys get married.
Oh, game.
So I love it. I love it. And Quan, you're the last one. So what do you spend time for, and what are you up to now? I know you're doing some good work.
Good morning, everybody. So yeah, Quan Huynh. I've spent a total of 22 years of my life in and out of prison. First went in at 17. My last conviction was for murder. I was highly involved with a very violent and ruthless Vietnamese gang out here in Southern California. Had a life sentence. Luckily, I was found suitable and paroled in 2015. Came home, created my first company 6 months after. It's a commercial cleaning company. I have 6 employees. 4 of them are also formerly incarcerated. I am also a published author. I don't have a whole series like Gunner. I just have one book. It's called Sparrow in the Razor Wire. It's written for men that are doing long or life-term sentences. In it, I share how did I come to my own sense of freedom years before I paroled from my life sentence. I've been able to donate over 2,800 books into prison for incarcerated men and women. And today I work as the executive director for Defy Ventures out here in Southern California. Our mission is to shift mindsets to give people with criminal histories their best shot at a second chance through career readiness, personal development, and entrepreneurship training programs. So we do a program inside prison. It's a 6-month training program, culminates in them pitching their business Shark Tank style. We bring volunteers in from the business world to serve as judges, and it's a way to transform the hearts and the minds of our incarcerated brothers and sisters inside.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Kudos to you. So, obviously, we brought you on the show because Surviving the Survivor has been following the Dan Markel murder case, and I know you guys, some of you are, kind of catching up on it. But basically, he was a Harvard-educated law professor who was married to a woman named Wendy Adelson in 2014. He was gunned down in his Tallahassee driveway. Now, Charlie is charged with first-degree murder. This audio is telling me, guys, we'll get it better for next time. But Charlie is charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation of murder. Quan, to you first. You were in for murder and got out, but what is it like pre-trial right now for Charlie, with the possibility that he could be in there for his entire life, facing potential life sentence?
So I'm sorry, what's the question you're asking me?
Right now, it's pre-trial. He goes on trial for murder sometime in 2023. As he's sitting in his jail cell right now, understanding he could be in there for a lifetime, what do you think his mind frame is right now?
Um, well, I'm not sure if I could tell what his mind. I know what my mind frame was because at the time when I was fighting my murder, they were trying me for the death penalty at the time. Um, my 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 whole mindset was, how can I beat this case? Why am I here? So there was no sense of personal responsibility in it. There was no sense of okay, remorse or anything in me. More for me, it was oh, I'm only here because this person told on me. I'm only here because the other guys from the other gang snitched, and it was a whole bunch of what ifs, like, oh, if only I didn't do it this way, or if I hid this. So it was more in my mind. It was like, how could I have got away with this, and what could I have done differently to not be in this position? But it was never, what could I have done differently to not kill another human being. So I can only share about my mindset at that time.
And AB, a lot of people say that the Adelsons in general are kind of sociopathic, a little psychopathic. You have to be to have your, person that your daughter married, have them killed. You have to be that way, assuming that they are eventually convicted. They have not been convicted yet. But do you see a lot of that, like what Quan was just saying, in the prison system, where people don't take accountability and just they sit there and say, well, the system basically caught me, but I really had nothing to do with this. And they try to basically say that they're innocent, and they're essentially sociopathic to a degree, and they're self-absorbed. Do you find that a lot in the prison system?
Me personally, with that situation, at the end of the day, you know what you did. If you didn't do it, you got to fight it. And the best thing in prison, when you got a case like that, is in the public world. Sometimes you got to be careful who you talking to about your case, because you don't, sometimes, half of the time, you don't know who's in there, who's working for the government, the prosecutor, or whatever. Sometimes you just got to go to the law library, keep your mouth shut, and just, hopefully they don't have the evidence. Then, you walk from it. But rather than that, most of the time, people get convicted of murder cases. They get inside a prison, get comfortable with guys, and half of the time they don't know this dude is the agent.
We're going to get to that in a minute. Gunner, to you, Charlie Adelson, again, the prosecution, the state says that he's basically one of the masterminds of this hit that was put on Dan Markel back in 2014. He was just arrested in April of 2022 after the crime was committed by two hitmen in 2014. For those 8 years, that was 8 years that have gone by. What do you think was going on in the mind of Charlie Adelson? Like, did he live in fear that whole time that the law was coming to get him? What do you think his state of mind was and is now?
I'm going to tell you what it was. Probably, most likely. There's two frames of mind from him. First of all, I thought he got away with it. Most people who do something like that and years go by, they think they get away with it. We did it. We pulled it off. Typically, if you're not dealing with professional hitmen, like professional hitters, like, mobbed up guys or street guys from the hood, it don't matter. There's professional killers out there who get away with it all the time. There's guys with 10, 20, 30 bodies walking around right now. More than that, 50 bodies, 100 bodies. I mean, real killers. And they'll kill you for $2,000. But they're professionals and they don't mess it up. I don't know who he got to kill or whatever the case is, but after 8 years, he feels like he got away with it. But that's the thing about murders. There's no statute of limitations. It can come get you. So when I was in prison, this quick story, before I went to prison, I was questioned about a murder. I was seen with a guy, my cousin, Johnny. We walked out of a Coney Island restaurant 45 minutes before he killed two guys. You see us walk out together and you kind of don't see where we go. 45 minutes later, he killed two guys, drug dealers, and stole like, I don't know, $80,000 from them, I guess. And anyways, they questioned me and said, were you, they tried to imply that I was I was there, which I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? But for the next 20 years, while I was in the street and in prison, every single day that I was thinking about it every day. I was like, man, this could pop up, man, you know. And then when I finally did get a parole after 13 years, and I'm thinking I'm going to walk out the door on that day. And as soon as I go to walk out the door, they're going to go bang, grab me, go, nope, we got you in there, hit you with this murder charge, just, you know, accomplice or whatever the case. Never did because there was no evidence, or I guess, but but that stuff looms over your head and it don't ever go away, man. And if you did it, they'll probably figure it out.
Well, they have overwhelming evidence. At least that's what the attorneys say.
He's gone.
Say that again, Gunner.
Well, then he's going to be cooked because the prosecution has unlimited resources, money, manpower, you know, and they're very, very smart. These are people who do this for a living scientifically, the evidence and forensics. I mean, these are people that are typically way smarter than the criminals, way smarter. And they have a legion of people helping them, tons and tons of money helping them. This probably will be a slam dunk conviction, and he'll probably get life or maybe even the death penalty.
Now, yeah, for my case, I think it took them about 5 months to do the investigation, and they knew it was our gang. They didn't know where. So, Gunner is absolutely right. I think he's in for he's gonna be in for a while.
So, the prosecution has come out. There's something like 57,000 documents that are entered into discovery in this case, and then we're hearing something like 6,000 surveillance videos, because this has been going on since 2014. So, AB, when you hear that kind of evidence against a client, as Quan just said and Gunner just said, is Charlie Adelson cooked?
Well, he basically he going, if they got all that information, he definitely gonna be steaking eggs.
Mm-hmm. He's fried.
Yeah, you know, if you know, and then you gotta remember these days when they doing these murders, it's too many cameras out here. You know, it's cameras everywhere. Big Brother's watching you. He watching us right now while we doing this interview.
And everybody's telling. Everybody's telling.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. I mean, Gunner, it's way harder to get away with a crime in 2022 than it was in 1922, right? Because of the amount of surveillance out there.
That's for sure. The surveillance didn't come around until maybe the early 2000s. There was cameras here and there, security. You could get away with a lot up until then. Believe me, I did. But at the end of the day, I found this is the reason why I was very independent when I did my crimes. When I robbed a lot of drug dealers and banks and all kinds of places, and I didn't get an accomplice. I didn't want an accomplice. I didn't want to bring anyone in on it because I couldn't trust them. And I would tell them, and this is a horrible thing to say. This is a really horrible thing, and I didn't mean it. But I would tell them, if we're going to do this together and you get pinched, you shut the hell up. We'll get you a lawyer. We have some friends that are judges. Blah, blah. But if you tell her, I'm going to kill you. And then if I can't get to you, I'm going to kill someone you love. I'd made them believe that I meant it, which I didn't. I wasn't a homicidal lunatic. I wasn't going to go killing their kids, but I made them think I meant it because, you know, that's that life. And in the end, you're better off not including anyone, because if you include anybody, like the guy, if he would have killed the guy himself and done it right, we wouldn't be here. But clearly there was a break in the chain. Somebody did something wrong, and not to mention with the surveillance, but you should be looking at surveillance. If you're going to go kill someone in public, you should be doing it, not where there's cameras around and surveillance. So not that I condone killing.
So this is an interesting situation. So just to break it down for you guys and for our audience who's pretty well aware, Charlie was married to a woman named Wendy. Wendy was a sweetheart little baby of the family. Her brother Charlie is now facing murder trial as the mastermind. 2 hitmen were already convicted, a guy named Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, who are both members of the Latin Kings. They're the guys that a woman named Katie Magbanua, who is Sigfredo's, this is so hard to follow for those who haven't been following it, but Sigfredo Garcia, one of the hitmen, was the baby daddy of Katie, and Katie also dated Charlie Adelson. So she's the connection between everybody. She was convicted as well. So the people that remain on the outside right now, well, Charlie's in jail, but his mother is also supposed to be the mastermind, Donna Adelson, and the daughter, potentially Wendy Adelson, and the father now. There's some incriminating video of the father, Harvey Adelson. If you are Charlie Adelson, Quan, right now, and you're sitting in jail and prosecutors are saying they've got a hard and fast case against you, and you could be in there for life, never see the light of day again. Are you thinking right now, if you're Charlie, about flipping on either your sister, your mother, or your father? And what is going through his head potentially?
Well, once again, I can only speak for myself. Family, and I mean, just in general, no, I would not flip. But yeah, I just don't know what his mindset. But I've seen a lot of people flip on family members and things like that. So I would not be surprised, but I don't know.
Same question to you, AB. People say he's very narcissistic. He likes fast cars, fast women, fast boats. Allegedly, he liked to do a line or two of cocaine here and there. He was a very successful dentist. Do you think there's a chance that facing life in prison, he's going to flip on someone in his family?
You gotta remember, you said a key word. Most of the times that guys flip on somebody, it's behind a woman. You know, and I seen, you know, in my time, I seen people tell on their mother, they tell on their father, they would even tell on their dog if they had to. You know, it's just that it depends how he built. If he, you know, if he's about that life and he's strong, he don't want to see his sister go down, because you got to remember this. If you bring everybody down, who you going to have there for you? Because most of the people that you consider as your friend is really not your friend when you get caught up in that situation. So it depends how he move and how he, if he need, you know, commissary or anything, he got to leave he got to leave his family member out there, because he got to take the weight, because of if they go through all of them, who you have.
Gunner, to you on that one. Would you ever flip on your sister, your mother, your father?
I wouldn't, but he's going to. So that's not even. You're talking about a dude who's not a gangster. I grew up in an environment where, you know, ratting is not even an option. You kill yourself before you even, you know what I'm saying, you rat on your family. That's it. I mean, I told people I could have walked the day that I got arrested. The FBI told me I could go home and sleep in my bed with my fiance that night. All they want is information on these individuals. And I said, "No, man, I'm the wrong. You know, you got the wrong guy." And I had made my decision at that point, knowing that I had 17 capital charges. They all carried life, and I'm like, you know, I'll just go to prison and kill myself. And I'm not going to freaking dishonor my entire family. You know what I'm saying? My grandfather and my mother and my family. And I'm not going to do it. So I just kill myself. It's not that big of a deal. Get some dope or slit my wrist or whatever. That I'm not going to do life in prison. I'm not going to spend the next 30, 40, 50 years in prison. So I'll just kill myself. But he's not that. He's not me. He wasn't raised the way I was. He wasn't in the environment or in the streets like I was. You said he's a dentist. This is a wealthy, well-to-do, spoiled, probably highfalutin dude. He's not cut like that. He's going to break. And if they say, give us these people and we'll reduce your sentence to something that's manageable, 5 or 10 years, or even let you go, he's going to say, where do I sign? He don't give a shit about those people. And that's what's going to happen.
Man, I'm closer to Charlie than I am to Gunner, unfortunately. Never been in a fight in my life. I need to start, though. I am taking boxing lessons, though, Gunner, so I'll spar with you, maybe.
Hope you don't need them.
I might spar you with you. So, yeah, I mean, that's the other question. So this guy comes from an upper middle class white family from the suburbs of Broward County. If he goes to prison, what's it going to be like for him in there? A guy that was driving Ferraris and, you know, had his boat and was out on the weekends. How difficult a transition is it going to be for him in the big house if he's convicted? And AB, let's start with you.
I have to run in a minute, so I'll give mine, and I got to go. I wish I could stay longer, but I have a very important meeting with him. I will say this: it's going to be it's going to be impossible for him. Somebody to go from that world, that life, that environment to the prison environment. I'm not saying he won't adjust. I'm not saying that he won't adapt. Most guys do. I've seen it. I've seen it a million times. It could be he will probably most likely fall prey to the predators. They're going to prey on him. They're going to extort him. They're going to abuse him. They may rape him. They may sexually take advantage of him. They're going to prey on him probably. For sure. He's not going to join a gang because he's too soft for that. They don't want him. So he's just going to be that terrified white dude who's all the time a victim, and that's what's going to happen if he's in prison, in my opinion.
You always hear about prison rape, Gunner. I mean, how much of a reality is that for a guy like Charlie? Does it actually happen?
Yeah, it happens, but the most likely scenario is that what will happen is some slick predator will kind of talk him into having sex with him in exchange for protecting him from the predators on the yard. So they'll send a play at him. The AB knows this. There's going to be some tough guys, some gangsters going to go at him and say, you pay up or I'm going to freaking cut your head off up in here. We're going to kill you, blah, blah, blah. And then Savior guy will come in and say, hey, listen, I'll get them guys off your back. You're with me. Hang out with me. I'll give you a little money, a little commissary. All I ask in return is a few sexual favors, and he'll get turned out. So now he'll be, that guy with that guy, and the predators will leave him alone. Otherwise, he's going to have to fight and stab his way out of it.
Yeah. Especially with that life.
Yeah.
That life. Exactly.
Gunner, you're awesome, man. I know you have to run. I appreciate it. We'll get you back on when the audio and everything is better, too, and we'll do this again. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I wish I could say more, but I got something that I have this TV thing that's popping up, and the producer keeps calling me, and I'm like, I got to go. But hit me up for another show. If you have to do AB, holler at me. Quan, good to see you.
We'll do. Thank you.
God bless you guys. Be good.
God bless. So, AB, at that point, what do you think his life is going to be like in there as a? What do you think his life's going to be like? What do you think his life's going to be like in there as a privileged white guy who was a very successful dentist driving these fast cars and boats?
Well, they definitely going to snort him, man. It depends, when he get in there, through the bullpen, who he going through with A&O. Depends. Sometimes it depends. Like somebody might just be cool with him, just having a conversation. And then, most of the time he probably get a job in the dentist department, so he gonna take care of some people, but he definitely gonna give some money up. He definitely gonna get it started. Trust me. It's gonna happen. It's not. At the end of the day, I don't take nothing away from nobody, what they are in life, but it's like you definitely got to have your mind right, because if it's not right and it's not on point, they will try you. It's just like having a dog. If you show the dog fear, he's going to bite you. So if you go in there, even though if you front, you lose some fights, you win some, you got to just stand up, you know what I mean? But you will, if you got that kind of money, and it depends what penitentiary they send him in, he definitely going to be sending some commissary to some people and taking care of their kids and stuff like that. Because, when you got life and other people got life, it's just saying, you got to do or die.
Quan, you were in that situation where you were basically facing a life sentence. Same question to you. How much does that weigh on you in terms of pressure leading up to the trial? You said you think that he could flip, but what's life going to be like in prison and behind bars for him in a maximum security setting?
Well, I think so. When I'm looking at how he is, I can only imagine. And AB, I'm sure there are plenty of guys like this in the yard where he would be the one that comes on the yard, says, "I'm not a real criminal. I was framed or whatever. I'm better than everybody here." And I think that's what's really going to make the guys not like him at all. He's going to become this is the mark that we're going to get, because somebody that comes in, they think they're better. And I could just totally imagine that type of person on the yard, with money. He had Ferraris, he had all this money, and his guys don't hate him because of that. But I think that guys would hate him because he would view that he's better than everybody else, that I am not a real criminal. And that will come out in the way he talks, the way he interacts with the men on the yard. And that's what's going to cause him to be, unfortunately, victimized.
You agree with that, AB?
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a sight for him, man. You know, if you never, and like I said, you never been through it, you never watched it, you never lived it, it's gonna be hard. You know what I mean? Some people's built for it, some people not. You know, and it's like you're 100% right. It's like he gonna go in there like he's bullshit, and bullshit gonna cost you.
And Quan, another issue that came up are CIs, confidential informants. They live in the prison system, right? So is it possible that Charlie could say something that could implicate his other relatives, assuming he doesn't flip on them? That are they listening? Are people playing along with the state in there to try to help the state if they're seeking that help?
Yeah, I imagine there are some. I mean, I've heard of a couple cases where there were confidential informants, like especially with guys that talk too much and then they kind of really screw themselves over, like high profile cases like this. I could see it happening.
But like I say with that, they in there because you got to remember the key thing is guys want to get back out to the women. That's why most guys tell. They don't tell because they love their moms, their pops, their kids. Most guys tell because they have to get back out there to the women. So you got to, like I tell anybody doing time, no matter if you go through bullpen, it don't matter, you sit there and play cards, when somebody asks you about your case, and then your case is on TV. So now they got computers, they can Google all that. So you can't sit around there explaining nothing to nobody because the same people that sit right next to you, eat with you, smile with you, work out with you, and you just sitting there thinking, oh, this is my best friend in here. That best friend is the agent. The best friend is going back, dropping notes because he want to get that life off of him. Life is life. You know, if they say, okay, a person got 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you got a chance to get back out there. But when you got an L, that means you're going to die in there. So the best way to get it off you is let me find somebody that don't understand prison life and let him tell me what's going on. And believe me, it don't matter. You're in the penitentiary. Everybody's in the penitentiary. Feel that they're gangster, they're hard, whatever. But at the end of the day, they tell more than people on the outside too, just to get that time up off them.
And Quan, we're going to wrap it in a few minutes, but another question for you. So there's been a dateline on this already, and there's been a 2020, a big podcast on Wondery that had 10 million downloads. There's going to be another Dateline episode coming out. What about the fact that it's such a high-profile case? What does that do for him in the prison system when he gets in? Good news or bad news for Charlie Adelson if he goes?
Well, I think historically, if it was a California prison, he most likely would have went to like protective custody, or they call it like a sensitive need yard. I'm not sure if they still have those in California. I know they've been getting away from that. But regardless of where, like people would know who he is, whatever yard he gets.
AB, you were shaking your head like, oh boy, what's up with him for being that high profile? And by the way, it's a Florida state prison, probably.
Well, Florida's got, they got the Haitian gang members, they got the Mexican gang. It's like they don't care about who you are. They care about the money. How can I extort you? You know what I mean? So it's like when you got that high profile case, and let me be real with you. Sometimes it help you, and sometimes it really hurt you. You know what I mean? Because they looking when they watch it, when you come in there, they don't see you Charlie. They see money. Or your family got this, you had that, you got this going on. So listen, this is what my family need. And then, basically time, if you don't do right by them, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But I feel sorry for Charlie, man, you know what I mean, for you know, it happened that way. Sometimes, when you put your family in your relationship, this what happened. It's not even worth it. Sometimes you gotta let it be. Let your sister deal with it. But sometimes you gotta step back. If the man would have put his hands on him, yeah, you ain't had to kill him. You could have just beat him up and left it like that, set example. But when you kill that person, this is what comes with it. That's the name of the game. Anybody that want to be a part of this this life, the street life, the hustling life, it's something in the background come with it. So you got to understand that if you're not built for it, you shouldn't be in it. Like I tell, like I tell anybody, if I could live my life all over again, I'd rather be a nerd. You could tease me, you could push me down. I'll take all that. Cause being in jail, being around a bunch of men that everybody in prison was Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, but couldn't get a visit, couldn't get mail, and it's sad that you got to be around them all day for 24 hours, 7 days a week, hear the same thing. So to me, to everybody out there listening to us, listen. Sometimes walk away, sometimes mind your business. And this go out to you, Charlie, what you said is. It's three things, it's like 3 or 4 things in prison you will get killed for, or get punished for. The phone, the TV, the gambling, homosexual. Those are the 4 things that you line up with. So just stay away from that.
Wise words, wise words. And Quan, um, speaking to your point about protective custody, because he's so high profile, we found out at the last preliminary hearing that he's actually been in solitary confinement away from prisoners. He's only got, I think, 30 minutes a day in the yard and none on the weekend. So when you're sitting in the cell all day, and you just got yourself in your mind, how painful is that? And do you think that's gonna? I know you don't want to speak for him, but does that make a man crack? Is it make it more likely that he could flip because of that kind of situation?
Yeah, it could. I mean, or it could be a place where he could remake himself, like if he's reading books that can help him and involving himself with. I guess it just depends on what his mind is. What is he doing with his spare time? I mean, from what I know, right, like they got a Latin gang involved in the murder. So let's say if we're talking about if he flips and even starts telling him on this other gang, now it makes him a mark in prison. So even once he goes into protective custody, that doesn't mean that someone can't get to him. And I think if he has told on the gang and somebody in that gang wants to earn stripes or wants to earn a name for himself, what better way? Oh yeah, here I attacked this guy, I stabbed this guy, the one that told on our homeboys. So I think, yeah, it's going to be an unfortunate long road for Charlie.
Yeah, I don't envy him at all. I'll say this: if I was going to prison, I would just act like the craziest white guy you ever met. I would just talk to myself, smack myself, whatever it took. Scare you guys so you wouldn't mess with me. But what's any not that I feel empathy for. I don't feel any empathy, but what would your words of wisdom to Charlie Adelson be right now, facing the prospect of life in prison? And then AB, I'll hear from you, and then we'll wrap it up. What would you say to him? Quan, that was for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I would say to him. I mean, it wouldn't be just a word that would just settle in. I think, yeah, he would just have to own this. But I really highly doubt that would happen. I just imagine it would take a long time for him to get to a place where he has accepted, like, this is the reality. He did involve himself in the murder of another human being, and he has to own it. And so for me to tell it to somebody like that, I don't think it'd be that easy. He just has to come to his own place and peace and acceptance.
AB, what would you say to him?
Charlie, I'm going to say, keep your head up.
And that is a wrap. And as our great producer, Steve Cohen, says, first pancakes are always lumpy. And this podcast was especially lumpy, but we used some of the magic of editing to try to trim around the inedible parts. And so we hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you want to get on the STS newsletter, all you have to do is drop your email in the comments section. Surviving the Survivor, the book, is coming out hopefully in the next year or so. I'm working on that feverishly. Thank you all for joining us. Love you, America.